Please make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. It was 9:47 p.m. when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I assumed it was just another wedding update from my daughter Esther, maybe a picture of the flowers, or one of those sweet, "love is in the air" quotes she'd been posting all week. But when I opened my email, my breath caught in my throat. "Mom, don't come to my wedding tomorrow. Just watch through the live stream link. It'll be easier for everyone. Esther." No explanation. No apology. Just a cold dismissal from the girl I raised on my own, who I thought I shared everything with. At first, I told myself it had to be a misunderstanding. Maybe she was worried I'd be uncomfortable, maybe she thought it was some kind of thoughtful gesture. But then I saw the second email, sent just minutes later, not from her, but from her fiancé, Ramson. "This is our day. Respect that, or don't contact her again." My hands shook as I read it. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. And I only had a few hours to figure out what it was. That's when I made my decision. If my daughter didn't want me at the wedding, then I'd be there anyway, but not as a guest. I'd be there as a mother on a mission. The first time I met Ramson, I knew there was something off about him. He had the kind of smile that was all teeth but no warmth, like he'd practiced it in the mirror to make women swoon. Esther brought him over for dinner 6 months ago, and while he complimented my cooking and told me how lucky my daughter was to have me, his eyes kept darting to the silverware drawer, then the hall closet, as if he was memorizing my house. I brushed it off as paranoia, until I caught him slipping my late husband's watch into his pocket. When I called him out, he gave me a charming laugh, pulled the watch out, and said, "Oh, I was just admiring it. Didn't want it to fall on the floor." Esther defended him, of course. Love blinds you in ways even a mother can't undo. But I never forgot that moment. And now, with her strange email burning in my mind, I knew, deep down, that whatever was happening tomorrow at that wedding, Ramson was at the center of it. By 11:15 p.m., sleep was impossible. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, the same spot where Esther used to do her homework while I made cocoa for us. Now, instead of cocoa, there was a cold cup of coffee and a stack of notes. If Ramson thought he could shove me out of my daughter's life with a smug little email, he didn't know me at all. I started small, Googling his name, searching old social media posts. Ramson Benson. Born in Africa, Ghana. Moved here 3 years ago. No college records I could find, no consistent work history, just a handful of jobs that seemed to vanish after a few months. Then I searched public court records. My pulse quickened when I saw the first hit. 2 charges for fraud. 1 dismissed. 1 settled out of court. I kept digging. At 1:03 a.m., I found an old engagement announcement in a small-town newspaper, with his picture right there beside another woman's. It was dated barely a year before he met Esther. But what really made my stomach turn wasn't the photo, it was the article right next to it. Local woman hospitalized after fiancé drains joint savings account. I recognized her face. Same woman in the engagement photo. Same man who was now marrying my daughter. I sat there, heart pounding, staring at the screen. My mind flashed back to all those times I'd noticed Esther's credit cards lying around when Ramson was over, the new clothes he wore, the sudden trips he took, for work. This wasn't just a bad fiancé. This was a predator. And tomorrow, in front of everyone, my daughter was about to legally tie herself to him. I closed my laptop and leaned back, thinking. If I confronted Esther now, she'd shut me out completely. Ramson had probably poisoned her against me already. But there's one thing he didn't know: my family's money wasn't just in a bank account. It was tied up in a trust that I controlled. If he thought marrying my daughter would give him access, he was about to get the shock of his life. Tomorrow, I wouldn't just be watching that wedding. I'd be stopping it. The morning of the wedding, the air felt heavy, like the whole town knew a storm was coming. I dressed carefully, not in the pastel dress I'd planned to wear when I thought I'd be walking my daughter down the aisle, but in a dark navy suit, hair pulled back tight, no makeup. I didn't want to be recognized too soon. I had two things in my purse: a manila envelope, a thumb drive containing every document I'd dug up last night. The church was grand and white, with bells tolling above. Guests in silk dresses and pressed suits milled about, sipping champagne. Ramson was nowhere to be seen. Good. I slipped in through the side door and took a seat in the back row. From here, I could see everything without being seen. Esther appeared moments later at the altar's edge, breathtaking in her lace gown. My chest tightened. She was still my baby girl, no matter how much distance Ramson had built between us. Her hands trembled slightly, and I caught the flicker of doubt in her eyes. The music swelled. Ramson entered from the side. He was all smiles, flashing that easy charm that had fooled everyone. Everyone except me. The ceremony began. The minister spoke words about love and trust, and I nearly laughed out loud. My grip tightened on the manila envelope. When the minister said, "If anyone has reason this couple should not be wed," my moment had arrived. I stood. Every head turned. Gasps rippled through the room. Ramson's smile faltered. "What the hell are you doing here?" he hissed. "I'm saving my daughter," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was pounding. I walked down the aisle, my heels echoing in the stunned silence, and handed the minister the envelope. "You might want to read this before you let him say, 'I do.'" The minister looked inside, then frowned deeply. He began reading aloud: court records, fraud cases, a former fiancé's sworn statement. Every sordid detail echoed off the chapel walls. Ramson's face drained of color. Esther's bouquet slipped from her hands. "You're lying!" Ramson barked, but his voice cracked. I pulled the thumb drive from my purse and held it up. "Everything is on here. Bank transfers. Messages. The woman before Esther, she's alive, and she's willing to testify." Esther's voice was barely above a whisper. "Ramson, is it true?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. By the time security escorted him out, Esther was sobbing in my arms. She didn't push me away this time. She clung to me like she did when she was 5 and had a nightmare. The wedding was over, but my daughter was safe. Esther stayed at my house that night. She barely spoke, just sat curled up on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders, eyes red from crying. I made tea, though neither of us touched it, and waited for her to be ready. It was past midnight when she finally asked, her voice trembling, "Mom, how did you know?" I took a slow breath. "Because I've seen him before. Years ago. He was with another woman, just as beautiful, just as in love, and he left her penniless after draining her savings. She reached out to me when she found out you were engaged. I didn't want to believe her without proof, so I started digging. I slid the laptop across the coffee table and opened the folder I'd labeled Ramson, evidence. Bank statements. Fake investment portfolios. Texts to multiple women, all with the same pattern: promises, love bombing, then sudden requests for money. Esther's face crumpled as she scrolled through the screenshots. Oh my God. I thought he loved me. He loved what you had, I said quietly. Your father's inheritance. Your trust fund. And once that was gone, he would have moved on, just like he always does. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I told you not to come. I was so stupid. You weren't stupid, I said, reaching over to hold her hand. You were in love. That's not a crime. The crime was his. She sniffed, then managed a shaky smile. You saved me. I pulled her into a hug. Always will. The next morning, my phone rang. It was the police. Ramson had tried to leave the state. The evidence I'd turned over was enough to open a full investigation into fraud and identity theft. When I told Esther, she nodded. Let him rot. That afternoon, we sat together on the porch, sipping fresh coffee. The air felt lighter, the sun warmer. She reached over and squeezed my hand. Mom, she said softly. Yes, baby. Next time I get married, you'll be walking me down the aisle. I laughed, a little teary-eyed. Next time, I'll be in the front row, cheering you on. And I promise, no live streams. 6 months after the wedding, that wasn't he. Esther was different. Stronger. Calmer. She'd cut her hair short, traded her pastel dresses for sharp blazers, and poured her energy into starting her own interior design business. Ramson was still awaiting trial, but the prosecutors were confident. My evidence, plus testimonies from other women, painted him as a serial con man. Every time the case made the news, Esther got messages from strangers thanking her for speaking out. One breezy Sunday afternoon, we were walking through the farmer's market when she said, You know, Mom, I've been thinking. You spent so much time protecting me, maybe it's time you had someone protecting you. I raised an eyebrow. Is this your subtle way of saying you're setting me up? She grinned. Not so subtle. He's over by the bakery stand. And yes, before you ask, he's not a con artist. I checked. I turned, and saw him. Tall, kind eyes, flour on his shirt from kneading dough. When our eyes met, he smiled like he'd been waiting for me. Later that night, as I stood in my kitchen arranging the bouquet he'd bought me, Esther leaned in the doorway. See, she teased. You saved me. Now it's my turn. I laughed, shaking my head, but inside, I knew she was right. We'd both been through fire, and now, we were finally walking into the light.